And we have a good industrial model here. New guests, drop out and or will be shipped out, and they are invited in, new guests again. So we have our next one in the studio. It's Minna Kinnunen, Business Director, Accountor. Good morning. Great to have you here.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Hey, the presentation will be given in our Narva Green Room by Sanna, Eulenberger, Service Design Manager, Accountor, but you're here to sort of cue her in and the theme in as well. Sanna's going to talk about how to build a future-proof organization, sprint or marathon. Mm-hmm. But before that, hey, as you audience might have noticed, in today's program, we also have 13, a lot of deep dive sessions, 13 deep dive sessions you can attend with camera and audio. On the platform, these deep dive sessions can be found under the deep dive menu, which is fairly logical. For instance, at 10:45, two of them start, and at 10:45, is it sort of Eastern European time, Central European time? We have to check that out. But anyway, two of them start on the topic of A, HR automation, and B, how to recruit young talent. But now let's go back to Minna. You come from Accountor, and what makes you want to talk about this topic, how to build a future-proof organization, sprint or marathon?
Oh. We Accountorians, as we call ourselves, have possibility to work with different kind of organization, small and bigger ones, and coming from different industries. And the question that comes up more and more is how to secure and how to build the future competence so that organizations can succeed.
Right. By the way, I like this Accountorian. It sounds good.
Yeah, and actually, when we talk with our customers, it is that there are different kind of terms and acronyms coming and going. So it is a bit that what medicine should I take and what not. And based on the work we have done, when we share our experience and best practices, is that each organization must build their own future, their own capabilities based on their existing situation, find their own way based on the business situation, culture, and existing competencies, capabilities, and of course the targets. And then we talk about that you first must discover where you are and where to go, and then understand how. Then it is to redesign to be able to thrive.
So, and are these sort of the steps to building a sustainable working life for you, or what more comes?
Yes, we could say, because they are the steps you must understand. Then it is, of course, what you do in practice in each step.
All right. Hey, and what kind of time perspective are organizations operating with?
Actually, it's interesting that you should at the same time run 100 meters and marathon. And as we know, it's a different people that are good on marathon and then in 100 meters. And this applies also when we talk about the talents these organizations need.
Exactly, to find those people and, to put the right people who are like sprinters, they have to do or you choose them to put them in the sort of short-term things.
Yeah.
The marathon runners you put on sort of jobs and tasks that require sort of long distance.
Yes, and to put it also another way, you can think that you must decide what talent, what competence you need permanently and how to develop it for the future. And then it is that how to take in the for example, that you have right kind of network, that you get the talents when you need.
Yes. Hey, a few short words before we go to Sanna Eulenberger. A few short words. How can HR help organizations to succeed? A few words.
Yeah, I think that the key issue is that HR is the one can help the organization to do all in practice, because this is about people. We talk about sustainable leadership, help the leaders to be coaching style of leadership, take fairness, equality, and really what kind of employer brand we have, how we handle this talent management, talent acquisition, how to build the teams, how to get the talents, so that the structure and motivation is in place.
Minna Kinnunen, thank you for this great introduction. Now we go to Sanna Eulenberger, Service Design Manager, Accountor, on how to build a future-proof organization, sprint or marathon. Sanna is already in our Narva green room.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Future of Work. Let's take a sneak peek at how we could build a more sustainable and future-proof working life. One of the world's most famous futurists, Alvin Toffler, has been credited with a quote: "Though the illiterate of the 21st century are not those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." This really is a case for all companies going any kind of transformation. And so let's see some of the elements that are important that we need to unlearn, relearn, and learn. But let's start with this sustainable working life. More than anything, it's a humane revolution. We are shifting from profit-centric thinking to purpose-centric, collaborative human networks. People are looking for balanced life that is moderate and more resource-saving than what the industrial age thinking used to be. Let's start with the unlearning, as we cannot learn new things until we let go of the old ways. The first statement is that we need to let go of the need for control. Work has lost its #1 ranking as a central value in the Western world, and this has immense repercussions, especially to employer branding and employee engagement. Now people expect inspiration, learning opportunities, empathy, and flexibility from their employer. At the same time, they are also looking for fellowship and connection. The humane revolution can be seen in many ways in organizations. If we think about HR, we need to look at the whole recruitment process from outside in, instead of the traditional thinking of what do we need for the organization. As the competition for the skilled employees is heating up, the new starting point for recruitment is what do we have to offer for the candidates? Why should anybody be interested in working in our organization? What is the growth path we can offer? How can we have an impact on how they can have an impact on defining our future and purpose? What kind of individual leadership services or HR services each one requires? How do we foster diversity, individual and collective growth, and flexible multi-roles to enable people's true potential? Let's take a couple of examples. It seems that candidates today think that recruitment processes are ridiculously complex. They are difficult, time-consuming, and very unrewarding from the applicant's viewpoint. In Finland, telecom company DNA, which is part of the Norwegian Telenor, has actually given up the traditional recruitment process. And instead, they only have a few crucial questions for the candidate in the beginning. If you clear those, seemingly simple but actually very thoroughly thought out questions, you move on to an assignment or an interview, which is much, much more efficient for both parties. Another example, if you think about internal HR services for the employees, Starbucks, they actually improved engagement and employee churn quite a lot by using marketing tools, and they identified several sort of tribes within their personnel to offer HR services. For career-oriented people, they plan a growth path within Starbucks organization. The artists for whom knowing the community and staying in one coffee house is crucial for their happiness. And then for the skiers, for whom the job is just a means to fund other life goals, they focus on flexibility, the work and free time balance. So we need to rethink recruitment, redesign job descriptions to more sort of skill set canvases, and dismantle silos and create interest-based decision-making circles instead of the old way of leadership making the decisions. And these circles need to be based on people's own interests. Basically, we need to sort of turn everything upside down, from bottom up, instead of traditional thinking from leadership down to the ranks. We need to give the power to the people, so to speak. It's no longer why should we hire you, it's why would I want to work for you. Let's move on to the statements of relearning. Due to ever more complex and unpredictable problems, we need to rekindle the childlike curiosity. In numerous research reports, curiosity has been validated to be an enabler in change management. However, 70% of employees interviewed told that they face serious obstacles when they are trying to practice curiosity at work. That's like shooting your future in the foot, isn't it? The problems our organizations are facing are something we've never seen before. Therefore, there aren't any ready solutions or known solutions either. One of the best ways to ensure capability to adapt to these unpredictable problems and circumstances is curiosity. It keeps us alert to the changes in the environment, and in this fast-changing world, the experimentation is the only way that sort of works. We need to go step by step to see what works, because we simply don't know the answers. And the complex problems are huge. They are actually tangled webs of intertwined problems. And there are usually many alternatives for solutions, not just one. And we cannot solve the whole web of problems. We can only solve a sort of small part of it and then test what works. And to do that, we need to foster an experimental culture. And that starts by nourishing this intense, childlike, collective curiosity, which in turn then feeds creativity that is necessary for deep, critical co-creation and co-thinking needed. The talent war I mentioned before requires that this co-thinking overcomes organizational boundaries and utilizes close partnerships in dynamic networks and ecosystems, because rarely does all wisdom reside within one organization's walls. So in addition to completely novel solutions, we also need to find a completely new way of working together. And we also need to upskill and reskill our people to learn this deep, critical and creative co-thinking. It doesn't happen by itself. It actually requires quite a lot of collective training. We also need to relearn to enjoy this childlike experimental culture, where failure and mistakes are only learning points, not something to be punished for. Especially we need to relearn this enjoyment of explorations and sort of getting astray in these adventures for knowledge to learn how to learn again. For example, NASA, the US Space Administration, fosters this kind of culture. They say very frankly that they hire explorers, people who are intensely curious and are ready to create teams and partnerships flexibly, people who are eager to try and test new things together and aren't afraid of failing in order to learn. And they can see their work as part of a bigger mission that is exploring the space, of course. To rekindle the flame of curiosity into this proper childlike curiosity, we need to build a systematic, collective learning culture and close partnerships over organizational boundaries. We need to also identify the future key skills, both those which are needed within the organization in the long term and those that can be shared by these collaborative networks. Let's take a quick look at the last point. What do we need to learn? Flexible agility. As mentioned before, partnerships and dynamic networks are ever more significant for success. We are moving from the traditional organizations towards networked ecosystems that are dynamic, flexible, and agile. They keep changing all the time. One of the reasons is lack of all kinds of resources. Lack of resources requires that we learn to share, a sharing culture, completely new and different kind of sharing culture than before. And it's not only about sharing the skilled people, it's just as much about biodiversity, lack of food, lack of raw materials, or even energy. Sustainable working life means learning to share all of these in a completely new way. Learning to share skills requires new kinds of employment relationships. Think about, for example, competitor clauses in contracts. There will be many kinds of contracts, people working for several employers instead of just one. We also need to rethink talent management, which I would rather call potential nurturing. Where do we find the skills needed? How can we have access to them? Do we hire, freelance, or do we share with other organizations in the ecosystem? How do we nurture and grow those skills needed over organizational boundaries, over time, for now and to be future-proof? According to several international surveys, the #1 criterion for young professionals when choosing their employer is sustainability. How do we prove the sustainability is embedded in all our operations and across our ecosystem? One answer is blockchain. Let's not get into that deeper now, but let that sink in. Blockchain will be one of HR's daily tools in the future, and also in many other ways than not just to prove sustainability. The German company Bosch has partly solved the skills sharing problem by generation management. They maintain a retiree pool. The retired employees do gigs to help in projects and share their know-how with the younger generation. At the same time, they learn from the younger generation new ways of working. And on the other hand, they sort of help in workload peaks to offer flexibility. And Bosch, as an organization, shows genuine high regard for senior skills. That is a very strong employer branding message to a job market struggling with ageism. Or one solution could be flash organizations. They are completely formed via global digital job platforms for usually a very complex project. Once the project is over, the whole organization dissolves itself. So it only lives for the project, not for the employer as such. So there's no employee engagement in traditional terms either. And as an example of building sustainability in an organization, just look at the Swedish IKEA. They have partnered with Svea Solar to provide customers with solar power panels. You can then sell the extra solar power provided by the system and actually earn money in the process. Talk about rethinking home furnishing products. That's it, folks. I wish you an inspirational day and see you later at the organizational learning deep dive games.